All right, well, hey, I'm in Lake Elsinore. I came down to the Supercross practice track. As you can see, it's raining. I guess it's been raining down here pretty much nonstop. It hasn't been very good. Guys have been getting out, but the gate was closed. I was leaving, I was driving out of here, and what do I see are some BC plates. And I thought, you know what? I'm not gonna drive by. We're Canadian. I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna knock. So I did that. And who do I find but vet racer Mike Downey from Kelowna, BC. And I think we're gonna call this time for a random Ross Pederson story. I think this one might be entitled The Day Ross Almost Died. Let's spin it over. Mike, thanks, man. Thanks for letting us ambush you here.
Well, it's the year would have been 1981, and I was riding Saddleback, and Ross came up to me and asked me, he said, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm going to ride Saddleback tomorrow. And he said, well, why don't you come and stay at my hotel room? And Kawasaki's paying for it. And I was staying in my van at a trailer park at the time with Ruben Springman and a bunch of kids and some old guys and whatever else. And so Ross and I went out and rode in Orange Grove the next day. And that day, beautiful day, drive into this private road. There's orange trees everywhere, and we took probably 30 oranges off the tree and started peeling them and eating them and rode all day. And after the day, we went back to the hotel, and Ross and I got all our dirty clothes and went to a laundromat. So we're driving in Ross's gold Z28, and I think it was an 81, and he had a car trailer. The car trailer was back at the hotel room. So we just come up behind an alley, and Ross sees this car, and he's in the middle of the road, a little Toyota Curcell. And Ross gets on the horn and starts giving him the bird and saying, fuck you. Well, 2 minutes later, somebody gets out of this Toyota Corolla, and I think he was sitting in the back seat. He was that big. I've never seen anybody that big, because the biggest person in Canada is not as big as the guy that got out of this car. Ross is towering and by this fella, and I'm on the other side of the car, and I'm thinking I should run. And Ross is looking at him, and the guy had his hands behind his back, spit in Ross's face. And there's a small guy in the Corolla, and I'm like, hey, we're Canadian. We're just idiots. We just made a big mistake. Please call your buddy off. And he told his friend to get back in the car, and he did. And so Ross and I have talked once since then, but I never ever will forget the fact that if he'd been a small guy with a handgun, I'm still scared to this day that we were in that situation. And two Canadians, who would have ever known that Ross at that time would become the greatest motocrosser in Canada? And I've talked to Bob Hanna in the last 2 months ago. I talked to Bob, and he said that he's talked to Ross, and he's still friends, and Ross is still, in Bob Hanna's mind, Ross is God in Canada when it comes to motocross. So if I can say hi to Ross, and you can laugh and I can laugh, Happy New Year, Ross.
Well, how was that? See, it's not always about the riding. Sometimes you just kind of got to knock on a door and see who opens it. Thanks, Mike, for taking the time, buddy. And I know you're staying down here for a while. Maybe we'll see you on the track. And like you said, if you have some extra gear, maybe we'll do some riding together.
Yeah, well, come out and film. And Marvin Musquin was riding a 302 stroke on Monday, and the track was closed, but he's riding a little practice track, and he's flying. So maybe you want to pick him for your win A1.
See, I always pick him, and people laugh at me in my groups, but
he's so underestimated. But Anderson was riding here 2 weeks ago, and I've never seen anybody look better than Anderson. He is underestimated. So yeah. Jason Anderson, my hat's off to you. Joe Shimoto, wow.
All right, well, we're standing here getting wetter and wetter here, but hey, thanks. That was a random Ross Pederson story.
Nice meeting a Canadian in California.